What's up, everybody? Welcome to this latest episode of the Popaholics podcast. I am one of your co-hosts here, Franklyn FM McInnis, and as always, I have my co-host here with me,
Hey,
collecting plastic.
hey, what's up, guys?
We saw this article floating around. Actually, I think I shared it with you. I saw it floating around, and kind of an interesting title here. It says Funko named one of the most trusted companies in the U.S. I want to start off right away with like, what was your just gut reaction when you saw that? What came to your mind like right away?
My gut reaction initially when I read that headline was trusted how? Trusted to do what? Like,
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little odd. It's to say a trusted company. There are some situations though where I'll say where obviously trust has been a big issue. Like in the games industry right now, there are so many issues with allegations of sexual harassment and things like that. And I can understand it in that context where the trust that they should have with their employees is not there. But with Funko, it's a little bit odd, at first I really didn't know how to think about that. I will say though, I see comments sometimes where there are obviously some collectors that don't have like 100% faith in Funko to say the least, and we can basically break that down, of course.
I mean, yeah, it's just odd. Like, I guess I'm kind of person that I'm trying to think of like a big corporation that falls under their kind of guidelines here. They said the list was comprised of publicly traded companies with more than 500 million in annual revenue, and they surveyed 50,000 U.S. residents. Who those residents are, who picks up the phone to do stuff like this, I have no idea. I'd imagine
Yeah.
it's maybe older folk or something that are sitting at home. Um, that I don't know who these people are to begin with. But this other criteria, I can't think of a company really that I go, oh yeah, that corporation, that publicly traded company, I trust them. It's like I don't know. I trust them to want to make money. But other than that, I just don't
Which
see this wording
I'm
why
glad
this
you
wording
mentioned
is
that
this way.
because that's something that we definitely need to address because it's a criticism I see sometimes that doesn't make sense to me. I see a lot of, well, not a lot, but every once in a while I'll see a collector say something like, "Oh, they just want to make money."
Yeah,
Well,
well, no crap.
yeah, yeah, they're a company. They're supposed to make money. Now, I do understand that there's a right way about doing that, and there's a wrong way. Obviously, again, I really use the games industry as a big parallel because the games industry is very guilty of breaking gamers' trust by putting out products that are basically not finished. They put out games that are not done, and it's happening too often. I think that's why FromSoft is getting a lot of backlash with Elden Ring because they put out a finished game that's high quality, has a ton of content without a bunch of DLC. Like they're going against the negative things that are happening in the games industry. So I kind of understand trust being an issue more so in the games industry than with collectibles. To me, collectibles just seems a lot more laid back overall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see the parallel or the actual, I guess, company or market that I see very similar to what Funko is doing right now is comic books in the 90s, right? They started, kind of like Funko, small. They got popular. People started collecting them a lot. The value went up. And then these companies, like specifically Marvel, right, started making just way too many variants of covers, too many copies. Like you can still find people still find X-Men #1 in the back of old comic book shops, still sealed in the shipping boxes they came in. That's how many of those they made. And like I feel like it started to become short-sighted money making. And I think that's kind of what Funko is doing a little bit, where they're just overproducing everything, which is good for them, right? Because they make money. But I believe it's short-sighted in the fact that maybe if they continue on that path in a couple of years, they'll really have turned off, I think, most people from collecting them because they'll just be oversaturated. There'll be just too many pops for people to collect, and the value dumps, right? And I'm not saying that's the only thing, but I feel like there's a lot of people that don't just collect because they think Funko Pops are the most beautiful collectible ever made, right? A lot of people, I think, got interested in it as of 2 years ago because the value goes up, and that's a big deal for people. And if Funko kills that, which it seems like that's what they're trying to do, um, I feel like they're not really understanding their own kind of fan base there where, yeah, okay, we love Funko Pops, but I think a lot of us love that they're also valuable, because when I show somebody my collection, it doesn't just look like, oh, you got 1,000 little dolls in this room. And if I tell them, oh yeah, they're worth $800, all of them, they're gonna be like, man, what a stupid thing you're doing. But if I tell them it's worth $80,000, all of a sudden people start to get really interested, and they go like, wow, that's actually that's not so silly now. This room full of dolls. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to me, for a long time, I kind of figured it out early on for me that I'm not going to collect for value. It just seems a little too stressful. And I'm not criticizing people that do collect for value. I totally get that. And I really feel like, I've said it before myself though, that any collector, I think you should kind of, consider the value of some of the figures at least, because you never know when something might happen in your life where you need the money and you want to, be able to sell something all quickly, maybe to help you out with like medical bills or something like that. So I think any collector should care at least some about value, but it's not like my main focus. And I think Funko as a company, it's not really their job to protect value. I think they should be aware of it, and I think they are to an extent, because in a way, Funko can't win, because if they put out everything that everybody wants, then some people are going to be mad because there's too many of it. It's not any value to it. But then when they do actually put out things that are numbered, that are limited, people that don't get it get very upset and say that's not fair. So it's almost like they're in an impossible situation as far as that's concerned.
See, and I think that those are the people that, Funko, collectors, everybody needs to just ignore. Like the people that whine and cry about missing out on something. Well, that's life. You missed out on
Yeah.
something. Go buy it on the secondhand market. If you really, really, really want it, go pay 30, $40 for it. That's always kind of been the way Funko collecting has been. Um, I remember when I first started collecting Funko Pops, I'd want to just buy like say a common wave of something, like say like the Fifth Element, right? And I'd be able to find most of them in store except for maybe one. And I just wouldn't be able to find it anywhere. And I have to go on eBay and pay like $30 for it. Not that I like doing that, but it's just kind of part of collecting, right? Like who wants to collect something that you can find anywhere? Yeah, the value, like you say, the value, and like, oh, something happens in your life, you got to sell something off for the value. That's part of it. But I think part of it is also owning something that's worth owning. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
have my house full of stuff that's all worthless, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I point this out to people all the time too. Like, if everything was easy to get, you wouldn't care about Funko, and
They
that's
wouldn't.
obvious because there are so many other collectibles out there that are higher quality than Funko in the same price range. Um, and I don't want to get into too many specific other products, but I mean, there's things like Marvel Legends out there. I think Cos Babies are they, if you really want them, you can find them at decent prices. Q Figs, there's other things in the price range that are really high quality, but people don't care about them because they don't have that rarity going on. So I've even spoken to a company one time, and I won't call the company out, but I told them, I was like, if you really want to get more attention from collectors, do chases, like, because that'll help to make a difference. When something is rare, it draws attention.
I just feel that people that I know that weren't originally Funko collectors or didn't care about them just didn't start caring until they found out about the value. And even
Yeah.
though, hardcore collectors, most of us don't care, right? Most of us don't even sell that many of our Funko Pops. I'll sell some, like there's times where I'll buy two Funko Pops, right? Because I want one to come in perfect condition. And if the other one comes in perfect condition too, it's like, well, what am I gonna do with it? Hold on to this other Funko Pop, especially if I see it, double or triple in price. Well, then I sell it. To me, that's part of collecting, and I feel like Funko's trying to take that away. And I know that the value, like the secondhand value, doesn't matter to them, but it actually, I think, really, really does. Um, I think it is in their best interest to keep the secondhand market value up. And I know they'd rather make the money and go like, well, instead of making 20,000, we'll make 100,000, because why should the scalpers get the money? Well, the scalpers should get the money because it keeps the interest in your product alive, right? So you can sell those initial 20,000. But if they make 100,000 of them and then they have to put them on sale for $5, which I see they're like putting them in stores now, brand new pops, like exclusive pops
Yeah,
at
five and
retail
below.
for $5. It's like, well, dude,
Mhm.
like, what are you doing? Like, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You can make half of the figures, sell them at the correct price, $12, $13. They stay rare, and it's less pain in the ass for Funko to have to make so many. So to me, that's a short-sightedness I'm talking about. And then I also saw that the Nova PX Previews Funko Pop was initially numbered at 30,000. It had a numbered sticker on there, and they're putting out more of those Novas with just a regular PX Preview sticker, but it's the exact same pop. So what's going on there? Is it those original runs 30,000 and just there's 30,000 of that sticker, but now there's this other pop over here because I believe they're making a new Nova show, or there's going to be a Nova show, so they're putting out more Novas. Which also, if the show's successful, they're just going to make a new Nova anyway that's accurate to the show, just like they did with Moon Knight, right? So to me, it's that kind of short-sightedness that I think is eventually going to kill this hobby if they keep that up. And I know that they want that earnings report to always be a little bit more each quarter, but I mean, that's great, I guess, but
to me, well, I think I think you just hit on probably the biggest trust issue with Funko is, and some of it is a misconception because, I mean, if it's a numbered piece and it suddenly comes back out, that's definitely a big issue. But there are times where, okay, so some people might say, oh, this pop is vaulted. I haven't seen it in a long time. Hot Topic is a good example. Their exclusives can be gone for months or even years, and suddenly they're back on the website.
Yeah.
And it's the misconception that it's vaulted because Funko never officially said it was vaulted, so they make it again. And that might be good for new collectors, collectors that have been around, doing it for years. They might be upset because now the value's coming down on something that they thought was vaulted. So there could be more clarity, I think, in what's vaulted and what's not. And I guess the app is trying to do that some, but there definitely needs to be more clarity with that, whether something is really vaulted and not going to be produced anymore or not. It gets tricky as well, too, because, I think the numbers, even if something is numbered here in the States, that doesn't mean it's not going to show up in another country.
Yeah.
That's a little tricky as well, especially because now people shop on websites. People will buy pops from websites outside of the US. So there just needs to be more clarity about whether something's going to be available more or not.
That, and I think there's a big misconception. Like, to me, like the whole vaulted thing, really, I don't pay attention to it anymore because yeah, it's just like, okay, yeah, it's vaulted, whatever. I mean, remember when Disney used to vault movies, and then all of a sudden, the VHS for whatever Pinocchio, whatever, like, well, taking it out of the vault, right? The vault doesn't mean anything, right? The vault is not a tomb, right? They're not encasing it in cement. The vaults technically have doors, right? If we want to be metaphorical about it, but there's also a big misconception, I think. People think that exclusive means rare. Exclusive just means you can get it in one place, and that in one place in America, right? Like, because like you said, sometimes an exclusive comes out and you can buy the special edition version, with the special international sticker on it here in America too. Like there's stores here in America, in Los Angeles and stuff, that have those, and technically those are supposed to be from overseas. So the whole exclusive thing, the whole sticker thing, it's a big misconception. People think that's rare, but it doesn't. Exclusive doesn't mean rare. And like, I mean, right now I could go to Hot Topic, find a bunch of their exclusives really pretty easily, or just go to their website. But it might be a little harder to actually find something like a Vincent Price pop in store. And I feel like that Vincent Price pop, something like that, even though it's a common because it doesn't have a sticker, is going to disappear a little faster than some of these exclusives. And once that does disappear, highly doubt they're going to keep making 10,000 Vincent Prices every couple of years. I just really doubt that.
Yeah, and by the way, I do want to point out to listeners here that we're not really saying too much directly about the article itself because it's kind of a fluff piece. I mean, to be honest, there's not a lot of depth to it, and I kind of get the impression too that the writer here doesn't know a lot about Funko, so they just started pulling some random things that are going on recently with Funko, like talking about recent releases and whatnot. So, I mean, you could read the full article if you want to, but there's really not a lot to it necessarily.
I did think there was one funny thing in the article. I don't know if some of the viewers of my channel, if you saw me react to the new Funko CEO, Andrew Perlmutter, his interview with Yahoo Finance. And I kind of made fun of him talking about how he said innovation like a bunch of times, like there's a memo. And again here, the one time he's quoted, he says, "This award is a testament to our dedicated employees who are committed to delighting millions of pop culture fanatics through innovation and a deep connection with our fan base." that to me it sounds like such a bullshitty sentence. Like I don't know. It just seems like very corporate speak to me. This whole thing just seems like a PR kind of stunt kind of thing. I don't know.
I wouldn't even call it a stunt. I mean, it's just something that happens on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't pay too much attention to it. It feels like companies rewarding themselves to an extent. I mean, it's like when you break down the Oscars, it's actors rewarding themselves basically. So, I mean, things like that, I don't put a whole lot of stock into them. It's just something that happens on a regular basis. So, I'm not really mad at it or anything, but I think there are other ways to look at the whole trust thing. Like I said, I really think the numbers thing, what is actually going to be available again or not is probably the most questionable thing about Funko. But beyond that, I feel like what you see is what you get. I don't think they really hide things. It's not like again using video games as an example. It's not where like they don't put out a trailer until last minute, or if they put out a trailer, it's just a cinematic trailer. You don't really see the gameplay, and then they have a review embargo where reviews don't come out until the game has,
Yeah.
is like a day before it releases or something like that. Like I don't really see things like that going on with Funko. Pretty much what you see is what you get. I mean, there are of course mystery boxes, but you're taking a gamble with that. I mean, even the Marvel Collector Core could be considered a gamble that doesn't pay off often enough, So I can understand people not being happy about that, but what you're getting into when you gamble with boxes like that. One thing that does happen, and it happens very rarely, so much that I'm not really going to criticize the company too much about it. But there are times where you see a glam that looks amazing, and then you might do a pre-order, and when the figure finally comes out, it doesn't look the same. That can be annoying.
Yeah, lately they haven't been doing that as much. Their glams are pretty accurate lately, in my opinion. Not how it was a few years ago. Like remember the fish guy from what was that
Yeah,
movie?
that was bad. That was bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a bad example. To be honest, like
the Shape of Water. But
yeah,
yeah.
The Shape of Water. That's right. Like to be honest, I feel like I can think of way more reasons I don't trust Funko than trust them. Like I'm hung up on that. Trust them to do what thing? Like one of the things that they do that is a little bit similar to kind of what you were describing about video games is uh they're still doing that thing where they'll put out like an example of this is they put out the Pirates of the Caribbean dog, right, for the Disney 50th anniversary, I think, for the park in Florida, right? It's been 50 years for that one. And they put out Pirates of the Caribbean dog holding the key. Really cute pop, really awesome one. I really like it. But it did take them several months, not several, maybe like a couple, 2 or 3 months later, they put out, of course, a flocked version. And that's one of the things that, like, almost any pop that has, like, the potential to be flocked, sometimes, and I made a mistake there. I got a little excited about that one. But sometimes I kind of hold off buying them because I'm like, no, that one's too ripe for the flocking. And I know that in 2 or 3 months, Funko's going to double dip us by flocking that one. And that's one of the things where I don't trust Funko at all. Um, there's some that have surprised me. I thought they were going to do the itchy and scratchy flocked. They still might. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised, if they go, okay, well, I know you guys bought the original one, but don't you want a flocked one? This one's way better. Because as a collector, you go, yeah, that one is way better. And it's that kind of double dipping where I can just think of way more reasons why I don't trust Funko to
Well,
do
to me,
the right thing.
I get what you're saying, but I feel like if you know the company, you kind of know what's going to happen. Like, okay, so Funko puts out a Pokemon character. They're going to have the
Yeah.
original common. That they're going to do 10-inch probably. There's going to be a diamond. There's going to be a flock, even if it doesn't make sense for it to be flocked. Like they're going to do variants of it. And I think sometimes, you just have to kind of be patient. Like you said, be patient basically and see what happens. But if you know the company, to me, I don't really stress that too much anymore. There have been times where they double dipped and I'm like, that was kind of cool. Like I remember a couple years back, they put out Cat Dog, from Nickelodeon.
Yes,
And
that's
like
a good
literally
example.
like a month later, it was probably like a month later at the most, they revealed the Flock Cat Dog as a SDCC exclusive. I was like that. I can understand people being upset about
Yeah, that
that.
was
That was
dirty.
so close together. So I feel like if they're gonna continue to do these variants, either be right up front about them or maybe space them out enough to where people feel a little bit more open to deciding whether or not they want to double up on a figure. But I think it just depends on that window. They got to find that right amount of time to do that. I prefer basically when they go ahead and show it up front. And they have done that sometimes. It actually surprised me in cases where they go ahead and show the variant up front. Like not the greatest example, but Kid Loki. Up front with Kid Loki, they showed the common and they showed that there was going to be a metallic exclusive with Funko.com. So I was like, I'll just go for the metallic. I do want the character. Might as well go for the metallic. So
Yeah.
but in doing that, I'm sure if they are upfront about it, then that does eat into their profit some probably. So they just need to figure that out. What's the right amount of time to show a variant?
Yeah. Yeah, or just make it a chase, right? Like just make
Yeah,
the metallic
true.
one a chase. Also, I'm kind of hung up here too on they surveyed 50,000 U.S. residents, and I feel like, I don't know, between me and you, we have I maybe average about 2,000 maybe viewers per video. That's a good amount. You average way more, 14, 15,000 on your news, right? So like I imagine if anybody that watches us, did you partake in this survey? Because I'm just curious about who they're asking, or is it people
Yeah,
that sign up for these paid surveys and they
that's
just kind
another
of like
reason why.
all willy nilly just pick things?
Yeah, that's another reason why when it comes to articles like this and awards like this, don't put too much stock into them because yeah, it's like, did you survey collectors or just people in general? It's like, again, with the gaming parallel, did you survey gamers or just people in general? So,
Yeah, or
and
did you call my mom and my mom goes, "Oh yeah, I think my son likes those little Funko dolls. Yeah, I trust him." Or you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like she doesn't know.
yeah. So again, I don't put too much stock in the actual award. I am glad that they're getting some, positive attention because, I mean, honestly, Funko takes a beating from the community. Like
Yeah.
it gets really ugly on their live streams and things like that. People can be so negative and entitled too with them. I would say this though,
Yeah, and
in
I can be
terms
I
of
can be
trust.
negative myself. Like I'll admit.
Oh, really? I didn't notice. But in terms of trust, I keep telling people trust that Funko is trying to get licenses and put out the things that you want. They already know what collectors want. They listen to that. So I feel like hounding them on live streams is just totally unnecessary, making ugly comments like, why haven't you put out such and such yet? You got to understand licensing, it can be tricky and it can take time. And they can only do what companies allow them to do. It's like people screaming about why aren't there more Pokemon characters yet? It's because the Pokemon company is not allowing Funko to just go all out with it. Like they only want so many at a time, so many per year. So
Yeah, those fans
I
are the most annoying. Like right now, there's a lot of them just whining and screaming about, of course, when is No Way Home Wave 2 coming out? When are we gonna get a 3-pack with the Spider-Mans? I'm like, dude, and I just keep thinking, dude, like that 3-pack they're all gonna look exactly the same. Like, who cares? But
I mean, yeah, they're the costumes are kind of different, but as pops, they're gonna look pretty similar, yeah. And that's another situation where Funko can't win. If they go ahead and put something out soon, and it doesn't even matter if it's 6 months after the movies come out, you're gonna get people screaming spoiler alert for no good reason. Like if you
yeah,
like it, why have you not seen the biggest movie in the world yet? If you really are so interested and care about it so much. So people with the over just the spoiler alert constantly is annoying. But like I said, if Funko goes ahead and puts out the figures, then you're gonna get people complaining about that. And then if they try to wait and make sure everybody in the world has seen it, and then they're gonna get people complaining, where is it? So again, it's another situation where it's like the company just can't win.
and social media in general. Like I think it just gives a voice to everybody, right? And me too. I'm one of them. But you look on Facebook and Twitter, like some of that stuff is just insanely, insanely irritating. Like the way people are, or they're just very like. Sometimes it feels like they don't have any understanding about the way the world works. Like they goes, well, why don't you just make, the dopest idea ever that they can think of, right? I was like, oh yeah, why don't they just make that? Well, because they can't. It's just like they just can't. And like you say, the companies aren't going to let you do certain things. They're just not going to let you.
Yeah, and speaking of that too, this is kind of another way to look at this whole trust thing. Now, I've been collecting around 6 years or so, I think, at this point. And in that time, Funko's social media team, I guess you could say, has had some changes. And I'm gonna say this, like, in terms of like just the social media aspect of it, I'm not talking about being in the warehouse, working in the stores, all those types of things. I don't think I would want to work for Funko in terms of social media because people have come and gone with some very awkward goodbyes. And I don't know if Funko does like NDAs, non-disclosure agreements or whatever, but it's like people have disappeared from their social media team without us as a community knowing much about it, which does feel, in a way, it's not our business, but then in a way, it's like they want us to connect to these people. So when they're suddenly gone, it's like, what is going on here in terms of the social media team? That to me is just awkward.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I've always thought Funko's whole just marketing strategy has always been very bizarre. Like it always seems like whatever the Funko fan base is gravitating towards, it seems like Funko wants to get them away from that, right? Like when collectors started going, I like my collectibles to be in mint boxes and I care about the boxes. Instead of Funko embracing that, right? And go, you know what? Why don't we just spend an extra 20 cents and put all of our pops in protectors from the get-go, right? Like just in soft protectors. I feel like that would be a smart thing for them to do. Of course, more work and stuff, but instead they go the opposite direction and they try to make their social media team go like, well, rip the boxes open, or, you know, uh, like it's almost like they always try to push back against what the fan base wants, and that's always seemed very bizarre to me.
Well, I mean, to be fair, and we don't know what the percentage is of inbox collector versus out of box collector, and then of course there are people that are mixed within their collection. Like I at this point I consider myself to be pretty mixed with it because I do have a number of pops that are out of box now. Um, so
But
I
I
mean
think
I
that
don't
no
know if
matter no
there's a
matter
way to
what it
really.
is, dude, like no matter what it is, even if you're buying like a blender at Kohl's, do you want the box that the blender comes in to be all jacked up, cut up, messed up? You know what I mean? Even if it's something you're
But
gonna throw
you're
away.
saying to put them in protectors, and I just don't think as a company that would be a smart move, the one that they could really justify to investors, of course, because there are a number of people that don't care about the box, and like I said, we don't know what that percentage is, but if it's enough to say it's not worth doing it, they're not going to do it. If there are enough people that just grab the box and take the pop right out and keep it out, then it's not really worth it for them to really stress over that, especially. And I don't know what the percentage might be, but who knows? It could actually be a minority of people that stress over the box damage. I mean, it sounds loud to us because we're deep in the community, but Funko is a lot bigger than our circle that we're familiar with.
Yeah, but I don't know. I still feel like even people that I know that are kind of like they start casually buying them because like maybe I influenced them a little bit maybe or something like that, or they just start getting into them and they have like 10 pops. They care about the condition because like you gotta remember like people that start collecting pops, they're not just people that never collected anything else before. They could be into video games, they can be into comic books, they can be into anything really, GI Joes, action figures, whatever it is. Um, and with those ones, it's always been something in collecting where the packaging matters. And I think anybody that ever collects anything kind of knows that. Like I was watching this new channel where she has a Britney Spears collection dating back like from the 90s and the early 2000s. Not maybe not the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, right? And even then, as a kid, she would get those Britney Spears dolls and all that other stuff and keep it as mint as possible, right? And these are people that are teenagers. I think most people that collect things, and this same person, right, if they start collecting Funko Pops, they're not all of a sudden going to stop caring about the boxes. Like I think there's a lot of people that yeah, maybe they're not a Funko Pop collector, but they like the X Files, for example. So when those came out, they just bought the X Files to put them on their desk. That's great. That's always going to exist. But I don't think that's what you would call Funko's heavy users, right? I think that's like their casual users, and I think that's not exactly what has made the company big. I think it's the people that do buy 200 to 300 pops in their collection. I think those are the people that are Funko's backbone.
But it's still though, I think when it comes down to it, the protecting the product, that's choice. It's like if I go to buy a comic, the person behind the counter is probably gonna ask me, "You want this bag and boarded?" It's not automatically bagged and boarded by Marvel. So I think it's still gonna be a choice thing in the long run.
Yeah.
Something else. Well, was there anything else from that directly from the article that you wanted to focus on? To me, it oddly becomes like a Loungefly commercial, which is so weird. That's why I say I feel like the writer here was just doing some random research and putting
Well,
some
I
stuff
well I wonder
together.
if like they get a quote from like Perlmutter here, and then they also get like a little packet of stuff, to put in there, because this seems almost like it's even written by Funko themselves a little bit. Some of this other stuff at the very end, which I think Loungefly has actually been. I'm not a Loungefly collector, but I think that's one of the smartest things that Funko has done, because they're not competing with themselves with the backpacks, right? It's not like another collectible that looks exactly like Funko Pops, the same market as Funko Pops. Loungefly is a completely different market,
and
different
it's
type of
they're
collectible.
high quality, very high quality too.
Yeah, I think that's the
Like, I
smartest thing
mean,
they've done.
some of their products can be pricey, but I think it's actually worth the value in the long run.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if you look at those kind of mini bags and bags of that
yeah,
quality, 60, $70 for one of those, to me, doesn't seem absurd. It seems pretty normal for bags. The other thing I found kind of funny here too was the the pop they decided to highlight was that Carnage figure, um, from NYCC, which I don't know. I feel like that's one of the uglier figures they've
that
ever
was a
made.
mess. That
Looks
figure
like
was
turds.
a mess. It really looks like I forget the name of the monster character, whatever, from Stranger Things. That's what it looks like, though.
Yeah, a
Some
little
people
bit.
actually compared it to that. I forget the name of it, but yeah, that's what it puts you in the line
Flayer or
of.
something. The something Flayer, Death Flayer.
Yeah,
That's
but
something.
yeah,
Mind
something else.
Mind Flayer.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah, but yeah. So that was an odd one to call out. And if the writer did that, that's kind of a questionable thing. I don't think writer should ever just take a company's words and use them. I hope that's not the case, but it does feel that way. So who knows? But when it comes down to it, it's a puff piece for the most part. I will say this though. For the most part, Funko directly as a company, I trust in them because I feel like what you see is what you get. I don't think they really hide things. But I will say though, the retailers they work with, um, don't always trust them necessarily. Like, I don't always trust them to actually ship the products. Like, they actually care about what the product is, and it doesn't matter. They don't have to know about Funko. Just know that people want their products in one piece. So.
Yeah.
That's definitely a big issue with collecting, and we could call out some companies that are pretty much guilty of not caring about how they ship things out. Another trust issue, of course, is and it's unavoidable, but employees that know about Funko taking the chases, taking the rare figures, either keeping them for themselves or flipping them, whatever it may be, that's out of Funko's control, pretty
Yeah,
much.
that's a humans being humans problem.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly, exactly.
and speaking of that too, something though like that, I get kind of on that same point about the trust issue, because Funko does do direct business with some of these companies. Like, I had never heard of Box Warehouse, and Box Warehouse put out that Mandalorian chrome helmet, I think chrome armor, and it's holding the dark saber and it glows in the dark. I think the dark saber. Cool Mandalorian pop. For a while there, wasn't that company selling that pop for over $100 directly from them, and then they lowered it to $25 for a
The
single
price
pop.
has jumped around. I know recently it went from $25 to $30.
Yeah, and that's directly from them, double the price. Like, to me, if I was Funko, I'd be like, look, dude, like, yeah, we're gonna give you exclusives, but what if every company that had an exclusive did that, right? What if Target
They
decided to be like, we got an exclusive, it's hot, let's just make it $30.
Funko either needs to put more stipulations into their deals, or if there's not like a set time that they're locking themselves into, maybe just leave some of these companies alone when they see them doing things like that, like, because it does make them look bad in the long run.
I think it makes
uh,
Funko look terrible, like, because I can understand, like a mom and pop shop, okay? I understand them separating out their chases, and you'll never get a chase from them because they do chase bundles, all that stuff. I get all that. But if it's a company with their company name on that sticker for an exclusive, I feel like Funko should put something in the contract going, look, you're not allowed to sell this above retail yourself. You're just not. Like, you're never going to see Target, like, even if Target finds a pallet of, I don't know, some random Target pop that they sold 4 years ago, right? That maybe now is worth $80 or something. Like, let's say that Britney Spears pop, the one with the that I think had a t-shirt bundle, the Hit Me Baby One More Time one. I think that one's worth like $50 or $60 now, right? And say Target in some warehouse somewhere finds a pallet of 3,000 of those. Like, they go, Target's not going to put that on their website going like, well, PPG and on eBay, this bundle is going for $80. So let's sell it on target.com for 70. They're not going to do that. They're probably going to put it on their website, probably at a discount because it's been so long, right? And in their systems, there's a discount. That I think it should be the way it is. If Target themselves want to do some backdoor deal where they're like, you know what, we're not going to sell it through Target because these are worth whatever, they'll never do that, right? But I think as long as a company has their company logo on the special or on the exclusive sticker, they shouldn't be able to sell it above what a normal retail price is. They shouldn't be able to scalp their own exclusive.
Yeah, that's about the most that Funko can probably do is not let them get exclusives. Like if I were a Funko, Big Apple Collectibles would not get any more exclusives. Like they're people have issues like getting their shipments from them sometimes. Of course that's a big issue. But then if you look at their prices, I mean they're obviously like flipping. And I don't think Funko can completely stop that because even if a retailer is not getting the pops directly from them, they'll get them somewhere else and still, raise the price up even more to make up the difference, So they
Which
can't
is
really.
fine. See, like to me, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, so they can't really stop people, from selling the pops, but they can at least protect their name, like in that, like I said, not giving them exclusives at least.
Yeah, see, like I think once a company starts doing that, like or if Funko goes, look, like, cause I think Chalice sells their exclusive for like $20, which is still like a little bit more normal, right? And I know they're not as big as like Target or whatever. And as long as Funko goes, look, the most you can sell it for is $20 or whatever. I kind of get that. Or
Yeah,
if they have
especially for a
Press
small
Stores,
business. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for a small business, I think that's reasonable.
But what
Yeah,
Box Warehouse was doing, man, over $100, man, and then like now 30, it's like, come on. And,
and
and it's
then you
and
got
it's a brand
companies
fee.
like and then I mean, when you think of a company like Plastic Empire, which I initially liked them, but then I saw the way that they handled that glow in the dark Marty McFly, and I was like, it just felt scummy to me.
Yeah, see, and I didn't really like. So I have limited experience with Plastic Empire. I think I've done 2 pre-orders for Chase bundles because they did have a pretty good price. Where like I kind of work out, I see how much the set plus the Chase is going to cost me, and I tend to divide that number so I can see. Let me see how much I'm paying per pop here, and I think it came out to something like 13 or $14 that I'm paying per pop and getting the Chase and getting free shipping. So I was like, you know what? That's a good deal to me. So I've had experience like that, and then I bought their mystery boxes, which I don't recommend because they were all a bunch of crap.
mm.
But that's the only experience. I don't have experience with their actual exclusives.
But yeah, to me, and I feel like I can't remember what the price was on it, but I know they've had more than one exclusive, and normally like around 50, I would say, for some of their exclusives,
Yeah, see that I
and
don't
then
agree with at all.
sometimes, yeah, and then sometimes bundling them with other figures, like I don't like that bundling thing, especially when you're bundling a figure with other figures that are not even related. Like that annoys me.
Yeah, I think pop culture was doing that too. I forget which pop it was, but it was like a hot
Yeah,
pop, and you had to
they
buy 6 pops and then to get that one. It's like,
and
that's kind
they've
of
done
weak.
that several times with with Funko.com exclusives, and I guess it's mainly because like overseas, those are so sought after because I mean now there's Funko Europe, but for the longest time, people outside of the U.S. couldn't just not shop with Funko.com. They couldn't get those figures.
Yeah.
So yeah, pop culture definitely took big advantage of that.
Yeah, and I think I remember. I don't know if you follow Esther. I forget how to say his name exactly. It's spelled a little weird. He's Canadian. He's actually a Dead by Daylight Twitch streamer. He actually has a huge following playing Dead by Daylight, and his Funko channel is actually pretty small. I think he has just a couple hundred subscribers, something like that. Um, but he lives in Canada, so I see some of the nonsense that the Canadians have to go through a little bit, even just from like actual retailers like what do they call GameStop in Canada? They're GameStop
Oh,
or
EB Electric
yeah, EB. Yeah, I think it was
Boutique.
I think
Yeah.
it was EB Games. If it wasn't EB Games, sorry EB Games, but I think it was EB Games, one of those. And they were selling like some commons and just like some newer pops that I think were pretty sought after in Canada, like double the retail price. Or maybe it was Toys R Us. One of those companies like that. I don't want to throw any of them under the bus because I can't remember it, but I do remember it was a company to the like degree of either EB Games or Toys R Us or one of those like that, where they were doing the same thing. They were putting these pops up for sale for like 30 to $40 or something like that, and just ripping off Canadians. And I'm like, dude, that's not right, man. Like, I don't know. I guess so many companies are doing it now, that it's hard for Funko to really control. And as long as they're
Yeah.
making money,
Hmm.
I'm sure they don't care.
Yeah, and for I mean, like I said, for any business, you can't once you're at a certain level of popularity, or even just like very minor popularity, like you just can't control it. Like things like that are going to happen, and it happens across all types of products and different industries and things where like you said earlier, humans being humans doing some scummy things.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen, and Funk only has so much control when it comes down to it, basically.
And I think like so I've been collecting stuff for like over 20 years, right? But Funko about the same time as you, about six and a half years, 7 years or so. Um, and I believe in my whole time of collecting Funko right now is the closest I think we've come to like a bubble. Like I think this is the closest we've come to like a bubble bursting a little bit, and maybe Funko overextending themselves a little bit, and just seeing like especially seeing those $5 and under pops, a lot of new ones at that at $5. Um, I feel like maybe they overextended a little bit, and there might be a pullback in production a little bit, and I think they're gonna be like we got to make a little bit less and maybe a little bit more killer and less filler. I
Yeah,
do like not a big bubble, but maybe a little bit of a pullback. Going, oh, okay, let's learn from some of these other classic bubbles, like the comic book bubble, the Beanie Baby bubble, the Tulip bubble, the original one. Learn from that a little bit, and just don't let it burst completely.
yeah, and supply and demand, excuse me, is always going to be a tricky thing in any business. I mean, like, they talk about how I think with just food in general, like over 40% of it goes to waste.
Oh yeah,
But you think about how much gets wasted in restaurants, especially like buffet restaurants and things like that.
yeah.
Supply and demand is always going to be a tricky thing. There are some things you look at though, and it's just like, what are you doing, Funko? Like what was that movie that came out not that long ago? It was it was a movie that ended up going straight to Disney Plus, I think, and I don't know why I can't. And that shows how important the movie is that I can't even think of the name of it. It might have been Artemis Fowl, not 100% sure, but
Yeah, I never saw that.
I've seen a lot of those pops for that particular movie. If that was the name of it, it might be another one, but I've seen a lot of those in stores. And I'm just like, why would you make so much for a movie that would just seem like it was headed for disaster anyway? You know, I think for some things, the writing should be on the wall somewhat, and Funko should pull back there. It's like when I go and I see like a Doctor Who exclusive, and there's like 30 of them sitting in a Barnes and Noble, and they're on clearance, like down to like $3, and still nobody's touching them. It's like the writing should have been on the wall somewhere, to avoid something like that. So yeah, Funko definitely needs to be more aware of supply and demand, but I think it is always going to be kind of a tricky thing.
See, like, look, not to go back to the whole box condition thing, but something I've noticed, especially with Barnes and Noble, it's almost like the employees hate Funko Pops, right? But something I've noticed with Barnes and Noble is, yeah, sometimes they'll have just tons of the same pop or tons of their exclusives just sitting there. And something I noticed about every single one of those boxes at Barnes and Noble is that they're all messed up, they're all dinged up. So I do feel like, and I know we disagree on this, but I do feel like that most people do care about the box condition. Even if they're going to take it out of the box, a lot of people save them. And I just feel it's like a subconscious human thing to, like, if you're going to spend your money on something, I don't want one that's been manhandled by everybody. I don't want one that's all dinged up and it looks like it should be in the clearance section. Like, I don't want to pay full price for something that looks like that. I think it's just human nature. And I
Yeah.
think even now with like inflation going on now, that's another thing. Um, how expensive is it to go Funko Pop hunting now in 5 different stores in one day? You know what I mean? With the gas at the price it's at, especially someone like me that drives like a Jeep Wrangler, right? It's just like it's gonna cost me $25 in gas, right, just to go to 5 different stores.
Yeah, and that's to me where it comes down to consumer choice. You got to decide whether or not it's worth it to you. And if something is really popular, I mean, you're gonna end up paying more eventually because, like with the sodas, the Funko sodas really took off, and look at how fast they raised that price up.
Oh, I know they're
Basically
more expensive than
across
pops
the
now,
board.
man.
Yeah, they are.
They're like $18 now. It's crazy.
With some retailers, yeah, absolutely. I think the average price is 15, but yeah, some retailers, especially for exclusives, they are around $18, and it's like, you know, as a consumer, you got to vote with your wallet. Basically, that's what it comes down to, including dealing with companies that are terrible with the box condition. They don't care about, you know, how they ship them, how they put them on the shelves. You know, Walmart putting those like theft protection things around the boxes, which is insane. You know,
Yeah, I'm just like, God, do
just
they even know anything? But
and I know some people aren't happy with Walmart either about selling pops and you have to get a hard stack with it, but I think that is an optional thing though, because of course you can find them in store by themselves, and then eventually online. I think you can find them without that hard stack along with it. But yeah, some people don't like that. You know, it's just with the retailers in general, they got some things that can annoy you as a collector, and like I said, you got to vote with your wallet. Just like don't make purchases with them, and you know either they'll change their ways or they'll deal less with Funko, whatever it might be. You know.
well, speaking of changing their ways, I don't know if you've noticed, but remember when for the longest time there, man, even if you're ordering 5 or 6 pops from Hot Topic, they were sending them in bags. I'm not getting pops in bags anymore from Hot Topic.
I think they got so many complaints about that. They
Yeah.
chilled on that real quick.
I mean, for a minute
Now,
there, every order I made, and they would ask me, "Oh, how was your experience or whatever?" I would tell them every single time. I'm like, "Dude, you guys used to be my number one place to buy pops. You guys had good prices. You had a good selection. They used to come 95% of the time, no issue, no dings or dents, and it was easy to just go return it in the store if that happens, right?" But now that you start selling them in bags, I told them every single time, I'm like, I only buy your exclusives if I have no other choice because you guys are sending them in bags. I would do it every single time. And I hope other people did because I think they must have because they really have changed their tune when it comes to that.
yeah, and you know, and I think that is a good example of consumers having some power. You know, I think we can you know affect a lot of change even with, you know with Funko directly, but it's got to be in a reasonable manner. You know, somebody whining and hounding the company because they don't have their JoJo's Bizarre Adventure figures yet. It's like chill, please
Yeah,
chill.
yeah, they're
Like
lucky I don't run Funko because when I hear somebody whine and complain about like when's the No Way Home 3 pack coming back or JoJo's Adventure, I'm like, you know what? It's never coming out because you're so annoying, you know?
yeah, really though. And then I've told people in the past too, like if Funko put out everything you could ever want at one time, the way that you're you know crying for,
You
you wouldn't
broke.
be able to afford it all anyway.
Yeah,
It's
for
like
real.
what you know, it should be a good thing that you know that things come out, you know, every couple of weeks or every couple of months or whatever things that you're interested in because it allows you to pace yourself basically.
Yeah,
And
or
you know,
just wait. Just
and
wait.
even
Like no.
jumping back
Uh-huh.
to I'm sorry, but I was gonna say real quick, even jumping back to those figures that are rare and very tough to get and you might miss out on, well then you got your white whale out there that you can always be on the hunt for. And to me that's a big part of collecting as well. Like there's things that I've missed out on and I'm not stressing it because I know it's something to work towards eventually. So I you know as a collector I'm happy with that.
Exactly. Or just classic collecting. Look, there's something that I want. It's $100. Would I pay that $100? Hell no. But do I have 3 pops in my collection that I would be willing to part with to get that one? Yeah. So if those 3 pops are worth $35 each and I sell them, then I can get that $100 and buy that thing. To me, that's part of collecting, and people have to realize that. Um, that's just what you got to do. And then those ones goes off to another collector that maybe that was their white whale because $30 is a lot for them to spend on a pop. And that whole economy behind any collectible has to exist. It has to exist.
Yeah.
Whether people like it or not, it's crucial to I think any collectible being successful in the long run and desirable by people. It just has to be that way.
Yeah, and you know I'm gonna say this too because we know with any fan base, you get that toxic part of the fan base where they almost act like they hate what they're a fan of. Like Star Wars, big example. Star Wars is a huge example of that, and maybe some of that hate is actually warranted to an extent.
Well, I'm
But
guilty of that. Like
but
like one of the funniest things anybody ever said to me, or said about me. I think I was on another video where people were talking about me. Somebody said collecting plastic hates that he loves Funko. And you know what? I was like, you know what? That's pretty good because sometimes I do sound that way. But I think people need to remember too, like people like me, it's I don't want to call myself a critic, right? But what kind of a channel would I have or anything if everything was just when it's bad, I say it's good. You know, when it's good, I say it's good. I say everything's good all the time. So to me, there needs to be some kind of criticism.
And well, you know what?
Well,
In general though, that I think that's a big issue that just as a society, not even talking about Funko and fandoms directly, just as a society, we had this big issue where people want to think in extremes. Either something is the best thing ever or the worst thing ever.
yeah,
There's so much area in between that. Like you don't have to love something all the time. You don't have to love every aspect of something. Like there's plenty of gray area there. There's positives and negatives. But I think that's maybe too challenging intellectually for some individuals to think on that level. But we got to get there. Like we got to stop thinking in terms of these extremes because and even our main focus here, can we trust Funko or not? Like, is it the most trusted company? In some ways they're trustworthy, in some ways things are questionable. It's a mix basically. But people got to start thinking more on that level basically, instead of always saying it's the greatest or it's the worst.
yeah, yeah. And I think my final thought on this, you kind of brought it back to the whole, what this article is called. Is Funko one of the most trusted companies, right? And I think instead of the word trust there, maybe do you consider Funko a company you like or that is doing a good job? Maybe because trust is like I trust my family, right? That's who I trust. But Funko, are they a good collectibles company? Yeah, so far, yeah, they have been. Am I worried they might slip into being a toy company and not a collectibles company? Yeah, a little bit too. So I'm going to point that out. And to me, that's why this whole trust word is a little silly. And that's kind of like my final thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I trust Funko to be Funko. I trust that if something is selling well, they're going to keep producing it no matter how much that small minority complains. If Baby Grogu is selling, they're gonna keep making Grogu. If Blacklight is selling, they're gonna keep making Blacklight. As matter of fact, I think that's gonna be a major focus around SDCC. A lot of Blacklight is on the way.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Even though I'm not a fan of art series, some people are buying it. So they're gonna keep making it. So I trust Funko to be Funko, and they're gonna keep producing what sells. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and I still enjoy collecting. There are some things I see sometimes where I'm like, not the craziest about it, but not everything Funko does is going to be for me. And I think that's something else that collectors got to get past. It's not all about us, the individual. It's not all about you. But yeah, we said a whole lot here. So we definitely want to hear your feedback. Do you consider Funko to be a trustworthy company, or just in general? What are your thoughts about the company? Do you like the company overall? What do you feel they need to work on? Definitely share those opinions. As a matter of fact, we get some comments that we find pretty interesting. Maybe we can do some comments, reactions, in another podcast in the near future.
Thanks, guys. Later.